This Day in Sports History. And welcome back to This Day in Sports History. I am your host, Steve White, ready to go up and down the sports history timeline with you. It is December 28th, and on this day, the NFL had a coming-of-age story. A low-percentage play got a nickname, and we lost one of the all-time greats. Those stories, plus stick around until the end for a non-sports fun fact about Harrison Ford before he landed his big role. I'll get started right after this.
And that's the end of the first half. As the teams head to the locker room, the Spartans lead the Bulldogs by a score.
You guys stink.
Geez, Coach, we're only down a couple of points.
No, I mean you guys really smell. You need to hit the showers. And here, I got every one of you new bars of soap from the Sterling Soap Company. Each bar is artisan crafted using natural ingredients and essential oils. They also have shave soaps, colognes, beard balm, and a whole lot more. Now get in there.
But Coach, we have another half to play.
I don't care. I can't stand to be around you.
A few minutes later.
All right, bring it in tight. You guys are still playing terrible, but you're smelling great out there. Now listen, you're going to need to stock up for the rest of the season. We got a lot of tough games left. So go to sterlingsoap.com after the game. That's STIRLING soap.com. You got that?
Yes, Coach.
Great. sterlingsoap.com on 3. 1, 2, 3. sterlingsoap.com.
So let's kick this episode off with what happened on this day back in 1958 with what has been called the greatest game ever played. This was the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants in the NFL championship game. Colts QB Johnny Unitas said 40 years later that this game is the reason that pro football is what it is today. 45 million people were watching on their new televisions, though none of those were in the New York metro area. Sports on television had only been around for about a decade at this point, and NFL Commissioner Burt Bell came up with the local blackout rule. It made no difference how many tickets were sold to the event. If the game was in your backyard, you could not watch it on television. Bell said that if people want to watch a game, buy a ticket. Never mind that Yankee Stadium had more than 64,000 in the seats that day. The Giants were the Golden Boys with players such as Frank Gifford and Sam Huff. New York also had a stout defense that was opportunistic, creating 40 turnovers that season. The Colts were the blue-collar lunch pail guys, led by Johnny Unitas. Johnny U had recovered from an injury he'd suffered earlier in the year, which sent him to the hospital with broken ribs and a punctured lung. He got off to a rough start in this one, though. He fumbled on the opening series and threw an interception on the next. The Giants were only able to turn those miscues into 3 points, though. After 2 Gifford fumbles that the Colts pounced on in the second quarter, Baltimore got rolling. Don Amici scored on a 2-yard run to make it 7-3, and the Colts later put together a 15-play, 86-yard scoring drive that resulted in a 15-yard touchdown pass from Unitas to Raymond Berry, and the Colts led 14-3 at the half. The Giants roared back in the second half with scores by Mel Triplett and Gifford, and the Giants were back out in front 17-14. The Giants had the ball with 2.5 minutes to play in this one, and the game really came down to one big play and one tiny spot. Here's the call from that day.
Finally, to Gifford. Gifford off the tackle, smashes to about the 43-yard line, and it's going to be close as Gifford hugs that football with a Marchetti making the tackle on him for Baltimore. Marchetti, who came in on 2, is down on the field for Baltimore as timeout is taken for him and a measure.
Marchetti made the tackle, but he sacrificed his body. His teammate Big Daddy Lipscomb fell on him and broke his leg at the ankle. It took a while to take care of Marchetti and get the game going again. By the time the ball was spotted, it was a few inches short of the first down, bringing up a 4th and inches. Instead of going for the first, and to the dismay of his offensive line, Giants coach Jim Lee Howell decided to punt it. A first down would have put the game on ice, and the Giants would have been world champs. Instead, after the punt, the Colts had 2 minutes to go 86 yards. A couple of runs by Lenny Moore and 2 crucial connections with Raymond Berry, the Colts marched down the field. The term 2-minute drill had never been used prior to this game, but it's exactly what it was. Unitas took the Colts to the Giants' 13, and with 7 seconds left, Steve Myra kicked the tying field goal. When the clock went to triple zeros and the scoreboard read 17-17, nobody knew what was going to happen next. And I'm not saying that to try to drum up drama. There had never been a sudden death overtime. Games that ended in a tie stayed a tie in the NFL at that point. But this was a championship game, and a champion needed to be crowned. The Giants won the coin flip, and so they got the ball first, but they had to punt it away again. Once again, Barry was crucial to Baltimore moving the ball down the field, catching a few more Unitas passes. In fact, Barry caught 12 of Unitas' 27 completions that day for 178 of the 361 yards through the air. Now, here's where an interesting thing happened. NBC lost the live video feed from the stadium. The production staff was in a panic to solve the issue quickly. Fortunately, a drunk fan wandered onto the field and delayed the game long enough for NBC to reestablish connection and broadcast the dramatic ending for television viewers. Now, the funny part was that it was learned later that the drunk fan was not actually drunk. He was actually an NBC production assistant delaying the game intentionally so they could reestablish the connection. So after order was restored on the field, the nation was able to watch the dramatic finish. Unitas and the Colts went back to the ground game with Amici.
Flanker out to the right, the left hand split. The fake to Dupree, the handoff to Amici's at the 30, the 25, down to the 20-yard line. So the Baltimore Colts have first down, 10 yards to go in the New York Giants 20.
Amici carried the ball 14 times for 59 yards, that one being his longest of the day, but the most important one of his life happened a few minutes later on a 3rd and goal from the 1.
They're down about 1.5 yards to go. He is now connected on 27 out of 40. The Colts at the line of scrimmage. Flanker to the right, the ends are tight. Unitas takes, he gives to Amici, and the ball game is over. Alan Amici has scored the touchdown, and the Baltimore Colts are the professional football champions of the world.
So this game had a huge impact. Interest in the NFL skyrocketed after it. Season ticket sales around the league soared. NFL attendance averaged more than 40,000 a game the next season, and the league never looked back. Pete Rozelle was named the commissioner prior to the following season, and with the memory of this game still fresh in everybody's mind, Rozelle was able to put together a national television contract, increasing the scope and the popularity of the game. Well, it's time to inflate those gold balloons and get the cake ready for the 50th anniversary of the Hail Mary, because on this day in 1975, the term Hail Mary was introduced into the football lexicon. This was a divisional playoff game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings at the old outdoor municipal stadium. Now, it's not unusual for Minnesota to be cold in December, and it was a bit on the chilly side, with the temp hovering at 25 degrees and the wind chill making it feel like 17 at kickoff. The Vikings took a 14-10 lead in the fourth quarter after a drive led mostly by Chuck Foreman's ground-eating gains ended with Brent McClanahan going over from a yard out with a little more than 5 minutes to play. Dallas actually had some issues that day, whether it was the cold temp or something else. Center John Fitzgerald was having trouble getting the ball back to Roger Staubach in the shotgun formation. Low snap after low snap threw off Roger's timing, and he was not happy. Their drive after the Minnesota touchdown sputtered to a halt because Fitzgerald could not get the snap right. On their final drive of the game, Fitzgerald was replaced by rookie Kyle Davis. The reason why we are talking about this game is coming up, but there was a play that happened earlier in the drive that was actually more impressive than the actual touchdown. With 44 seconds remaining, the Cowboys faced a 4th and 17 from their own 25-yard line. Here's Gary Bender and Johnny Unitas with the call for CBS that day.
Roger going down here through Pearson. And did he make the catch? He did. He made the catch.
Pearson toe-tapped the sidelines with 2 feet for a pickup of 25 and a first down at midfield. So that's how close the Cowboys came to losing this game. A Pearson toe lands on the chalk, This ball game is over, and we are calling the Hail Mary something completely different. So there's only 32 seconds left, and down 4, the Cowboys need the touchdown. Staubach remembered a play that Dallas had run the year before during the Thanksgiving Day game with Washington, and we've actually talked about that game on this podcast. It was the infamous Clint Longley game. Longley, who was subbing for the injured Staubach back on that Thanksgiving Day game, hit Pearson in stride for a touchdown to beat the Redskins. So Staubach called the same play with the only exception of having Pearson line up on the right instead of the left. Here's the voice of the Minnesota Vikings, Joe McConnell, with the call of what became known as the Hail Mary.
Roger takes the snap, pumps it once. He's going long. Down the near sideline for Drew Pearson. Pearson makes the catch at the 5. Touchdown! Pearson goes in for the touchdown, and the Cowboys score.
The pass was a little underthrown. Pearson made an adjustment on the ball, and whether he pushed defensive back Nate Wright in the process, well, that's still a sore spot for Minnesota fans. But Pearson trapped the ball with his right hand against his leg and slipped into the end zone for the touchdown. Minnesota's plea for a pass interference call went unheard, and the Cowboys led 17-14 after the point after. Now, this is a bit different than how we define a Hail Mary now. There were still 24 seconds on the clock, and Minnesota still had 3 timeouts. But Fran Tarkenton could not lead the Vikings downfield to return the favor, and the Cowboys won the game to advance to the NFC Championship game. Talking about the dramatic play afterwards, Pearson was quoted as saying the chances on a play like that are slim and none. Head coach Tom Landry said, "Our only hope was to throw it up there and hope for a miracle." It was Staubach, a good Catholic kid who attached Hail Mary to the play. Here he is remembering it 40 years later on The Dan Patrick Show.
An AP writer just said to me, "What were you thinking about when you threw the ball?" And I said, "I closed my eyes and said a Hail Mary." I was a Catholic kid from Cincinnati, and they said, the NFL's recognized that's the first time it was ever said.
Now, something to add to that story, the term Hail Mary was actually used in football years before, but to describe something completely different. In a 1922 collegiate game between Georgia Tech and Notre Dame, the Irish actually said a Hail Mary in the huddle prior to scoring a 6-yard touchdown. Later, they did the same thing before scoring another 6-yard touchdown, to which a player said after the game, "That Hail Mary play is the best play we have." So, a little better marketing back in the 20s, and Hail Mary may have become the term for a 6-yard touchdown run, rather than a desperation heave as time expires. Of course, who knows if we would even have cared about what happened back in 1975 if what happened on this day in 1902 had not happened. Before the NFL started as the APFA in 1920, there was another league called the NFL that got its start in 1902. Connie Mack, better known for his time as manager of Major League Baseball's Philadelphia Athletics, started up the first professional football league. At the end of the season, 3 teams claimed they were the champions of this new thing, so on this day, they started a 5-team playoff played at Madison Square Garden. It was the first indoor football game ever played, and it featured the New York Knickerbockers and a team from Syracuse. Pop Warner played for Syracuse, and they beat New York 6-0 and went on to win the first championship. Well, since exciting game enders has been a theme in today's show, let's go back to 2000 and a regular season NBA game between the New Jersey Nets and the Boston Celtics. The Nets led by 2 with 1.7 seconds left, and they had the ball out of a timeout at midcourt. All the Nets had to do was successfully inbound the ball, and they'd win the game. Instead, this happened.
Celtics looking for a miracle. Nets just trying to hold on. Knocked away. Thrown up. And good! Good! Incredible! Absolutely incredible at the buzzer.
So that was Boston's Milt Palacio with the steal and then the game-winning 3 as the horn sounded. It was his only shot of the game, and he was mobbed by his teammates like they had won a championship. And on this day in 2021, former NFL coach, broadcaster, pitchman, and video game icon John Madden died. Madden seemed to have the Midas touch with anything he came into contact with. And it will be interesting to see how Nick Cage's depiction of the coach in the upcoming biopic goes. That film is set for release next November. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. And since we're talking movies, let's talk about Harrison Ford, who was working as a carpenter before he landed his role in American Graffiti. Ford moved to Hollywood to be an actor, but like a lot of struggling folks, he had issues landing roles. So to earn money to feed his family, he taught himself woodworking, and he was installing a door for Francis Ford Coppola when George Lucas happened to pop in to say hello to Coppola. Francis encouraged George to give Ford a chance to read some lines for American Graffiti, and the rest, as they say, is history. That's all I've got for you today. Come on back tomorrow for another This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.